So thank you for joining for the fourth session of the Effective Shift. And today we'll be discussing energy management. And so we'll start with a quick question is, when is the last time that you actually took some time to rest? Likewise, show up even when you didn't feel like it, when you were more forcing and felt tired. And so today we'll be discussing specifically when you have those big goals that you've written down, your life purpose, and then tracking back into what it looks like on a daily basis is also considering that it's a marathon in itself. So how do you use your energy wisely to allow yourself to feel energized every day? And so in terms of a recap of what we've looked at over the last 4 weeks, so the importance of knowing yourself, the psychology as well of subpersonalities, how we make decisions, and the importance of understanding yourself, as it gives you some insights as to when you're in your best position to make a decision. Likewise, life maps. What does your life purpose look like? And how do you then bring purpose into your life? Last week, we discussed meaningful goal setting, and I'll provide you with a summary just to do a catch up on this one. And today we'll be discussing energy management. So just briefly in terms of what we looked at last week, it was how to set up smartery goals. So we know what SMART goals are. Here, the specificity is that, so we look at it, of course, just like with SMART goals in terms of having a detailed goal. Likewise, what are the milestones to get there? So say I want to achieve X in year Y. What are the various steps I need to go through in order to achieve that goal? So say I want to run half a marathon. How does the build-up look like? Should I, first be running 5K, feel comfortable, then 10K, then 15K? So identifying those milestones to understand what are the parameters that you learn and that are going to allow you to be able to judge whether you're there or not. Because if you look at, chapter 27 of, say, a business or somebody in their career, it's the sum of many different things that are going to add up and are going to allow you to make better decisions. So then the action steps, of course, to get to those milestones. The element of risk. What is that risk? If there's no risk, you have nothing to lose. And so what are you actually gaining? And so we know that, especially in financial services, that the higher the risk, the higher the yield. So what is the price that you're putting on taking this action? What can you lose? But likewise, what can you gain? Then, of course, time key and having the understanding of how long is it going to take me? How often do I need to focus on this action? How many days? Exciting. Are your goals exciting? Good for you goals are not going to bring you very far. Last week, we looked at this study where we had two groups, one which had a risky goal, the other one which had a goal that was achievable. For the first group who had an achievable goal, about 80% of them achieved their goal. The satisfaction rate, I think, was about 45%. For those who had a risky goal, the people who achieved their goal was much lower, but the satisfaction was about 100%. And then, of course, making it relevant, aligned to your relationships, aligned to your environment. And we discussed ecology. So it's it's the science of understanding relationship between organisms and likewise how it has an impact between the physical environment, human beings, etc. And so bringing this concept into your life, because you don't want to be aiming for a goal knowing that it's going to cost you a lot in other areas of your life. So how do you create harmony to be sure that it's all synchronized with your life? And then finally, including the why. Why are you doing this? Because when you why, you lose your way. So today we're going to cover managing time, so areas of your life that you can improve. Likewise, identify where your energy is low. What are the priorities and how you can also understand better energy management. When your energy is low, what comes to mind? And that's the question. Maybe we can pause here.
Tu vois, je pense à, tu vois, les dernières fois où j'ai eu l'énergie basse, etc. T'as envie de rien faire? Ouais.
Bon, ça roule. Okay. So next, just a reminder, of course, of the combination of purpose, which is the driving force, productivity, which is purpose and action, and then commitment, which is the backbone of dedication. And the synergy is created by considering all three aspects. So purpose will provide clarity and direction. So where am I going? Serving as the why behind all your actions. Productivity really brings the purpose into reality through focused effort and efficient execution. And then commitment, it's the loop you go through daily of ensuring that you're making that decision again to be dedicating your time, maintaining momentum and resilience to, of course, stay aligned with your purpose. And likewise, there's always going to be something that is going to test you, challenge you. And the importance of having a strong why is also going to allow you to just go through the hoops, understand what you're going for, and always remember that. So what's holding the system together? It's being present. As Eckhart Tolle, the friend of Oprah Winfrey, who wrote The Power of Now, being present is essential to be able to be fully conscious, because our mind is always working, and there's always something happening, there's always some comments. And so the idea here is to cultivate this sense of the possibility that you can create space between what's going on in your head and the present moment. Because often the mind is stuck either in the future in terms of reminding us what we want to do, what we need to do, getting the pusher inside of us to do things, or sometimes it can be stuck in the past, thinking, yeah, maybe I should have done this, or I had this conversation, I should have said this, etc. So here's an invitation to really be present. So what does being present look like for you? So we'll be discussing executive functions and biorhythms. So what are executive functions? Just in terms of a reminder, so the brain is complex and has two systems. And as Daniel Kahneman, who's a Nobel Prize, put forward in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, there's a system one, which is based on emotion and acts quickly and through intuition, first impressions, for instance, that we will get, and trying to keep you safe from harm, food, life and death, family. And then we have the system two, which is, takes its time, thinks logically, and doesn't act in any, through being rushed or whatsoever. Less panic driven and more reflective. So yeah, the system one on the left-hand side is, of course, me-centric, completely self-obsessed, emotional. It's visual, it's not subtle, and it doesn't experience patience or empathy, and it doesn't have any awareness other than its own survival and reproduction. On the other side, we have the prefrontal cortex, which is logical, focused, has the ability to build, and is fully developed at the age of 25 years old, which can sometimes explain why we make poor decisions before that age when we're younger. So executive functions, function, what are they? For instance, they allow you to manage time, pay attention, prioritize tasks, plan and organize. And so all these skills are controlled by the frontal lobe and of the brain. And this is what helps us to develop higher level of skills. Other examples of executive function can be making decision, learning, working, basically manage daily life. And so what happens when it's not working properly? When these executive functions are not happening properly, we have less control over our behavior. So which can have an impact on work, on school, and do things. We're basically on autopilot, and has an impact as well on our relationship. The difficulty is that because we're on autopilot, they're not always easy to identify whether you're running on low energy. But examples of poor executive function could be difficulty with starting or finishing tasks, keeping organized, issues over impulse. So for instance, food could be food or any other addictive behavior. Trying to execute multiple steps becomes very difficult, and just in general, making decisions. And so management is not about controlling, but it's about harmony and integration. If you think about balance, it means that we're weighing something against another, so it's one weight against another. As opposed to harmony, if we think about music, if all instruments were playing equally over a song, it wouldn't sound the same as if there was harmony. So let's say you had the drum, the guitar, whatever other instrument. If they're equally playing, it wouldn't be as nice as if there was this harmony. So you can think about it that way instead of, as we often talk about work-life balance, is there such a thing as balance, or is it more about harmony and how you create something that is smooth? And so often what happens when we're tired of making decisions, we go through decision fatigue. And the more decision you make, the more drained you become. And that's a downward spiral, which leads to basically putting things off and procrastinating because the brain is just too tired to make decisions. So it's considering the fact that even the logical part of the brain needs some rest. And so when we don't pay attention to that, waking up can be difficult. Making decisions simply over what we're going to be wearing, house maintenance, what am I going to eat, working out as well, we'll just be pushing back on and on and on because there's this decision fatigue and we're overthinking. So how do we fix this? Any ideas?
Moi, ça te fait, tu vois, dans pic, peut-être ça en fait, planifier, supprimer, prendre spur of the moment.
De sortir tes vêtements, par exemple, avant de faire le workout. Parce qu'en fait, c'est bête, mais si le matin, t'as pas tes affaires qui sont prêtes pour aller faire du sport, ça fait encore un truc en plus à décider. Good. So how do we fix this? So we can remove choice from some elements of our life. Likewise, one thing that we often oversee or overlook is building downtime in your day. And finally, how to build healthy boundaries around activities. If you say you're going to be working out for, say, 45 minutes, be sure that you have your timer on, so you're time bound. Likewise, it can be the same for work. You can spend basically 24 hours working, but how sustainable is it? What's going to be the impact? So the idea is to say you need to have a cutoff time, a bit like banks have anyway, when it comes to wiring funds, etc. So there's always a moment where you have to say no. So because over time, this has an impact. For instance, if you consistently have, working lunches instead of lunch, where's the mindful eating? Where's the being present, as we saw at the beginning? Where is that? Sleep. If you're always cutting out on your sleep, what is the impact overall in terms of being able to be productive and following through on the purpose that you've decided to chase? How much do you move? It also have an impact. So one thing that's important is it can be daily rituals, because that's going to help you eliminate, it's going to help you with eliminating the fact that you need to remember. It's going to free up your creativity, clean up some of your mistakes, because you'll be learning, and speed up your work. And we often underestimate the power of rituals, but clearly if we're able to, for some of the decisions in our life, create a system around it, then we spend less energy on those things. So there are 4 key daily rituals that we'll be looking at. So we have morning rituals, then we have startup of your day at work, when you shut down, and then the evening. Good. So thank you for sharing. We'll move on now to biorhythms. So there are two main areas of focus. So we need to think about ultradian rhythms and then chronotypes. So I'll be sharing some links as well where you can understand a test where you can understand what your chronotype is. And but we'll first start with ultradian rhythms. So what are they? It's basically understanding, you probably know this from sleeping, that there are 90 minutes cycles, but those rhythms actually take place continually throughout the day, both at day and at night. So as you start your day and get yourself into a flow of activity and mental focus, so your body and your brain starts burning through oxygen, glucose, anything that your body needs to fuel itself. Within about an hour and a half, you reach the apex of your productivity, as we can see here. And then after that, there is basically a phase where we need to recover. And so considering that can also have an impact on the actions that you're taking linked to your purpose. Because what happens is that often a lot of people do have a crash around mid-morning. It can be linked to the diet. If you've had too much carbohydrates, for instance, for breakfast. But likewise, if you look at the moment of when you actually started focused and burning energy, etc., you'll probably feel that there are some certain cycles depending on at what time you get up, etc. But what's important here as well is to understand that even if you have a peak performance, at some point you also need to recover. So what are some of the activities? How do you want to plan, for activities where you need to really focus on the task and be able to say, maybe I should push this back and do something that is less taxing. So that's going to allow me to be more productive on something I choose to focus on. Any questions about this rhythm?
I think it sum up well the feeling you have when you have back-to-back meeting through the whole day, and you need to be top performing, and you feel like that you're not in your A game after 2 or 3 meetings for like half an hour, and then you're just going through the day like a zombie. Makes total sense.
And there is a study that was published by Microsoft showing how your brain performs if you have breaks of 10 minutes after each call versus if you actually do those meetings back to back. And you can see that the cognitive function actually really goes down if you're not having those breaks as opposed to recharging. So,
yeah, makes sense.
So what happens, yes, if you don't consider those rhythms, you end up feeling sluggy, tired, distracted, and this feeling of, I'm not well. And so the message here is that your brain also needs a break. At some point, you need to understand, maybe you can be walking around the office, going, standing, moving around, going to talk to another colleague to have a break, but just get, the blood flowing. Chronotypes. So this is your natural inclination for sleeping over a period of 24 hours. So you have morning types. Likewise, you have evening types, the owls, and you have intermediate types. So what I'll do is that I'll share with you the questionnaire, the tests that you can do in the chat. And so you can do it outside of this call just to understand where you stand with this. And so those basically affect productivity. And here the idea is really to understand, when are you the most alert? What are the most optimal times for productivity? And when are you naturally more focused? So that there's another study that was showing that after 8 a.m., from 8 a.m. onwards, your cognitive function are basically declining. So that's why a lot of the productivity gurus say, and the importance of also planning the day before on the 3 most important tasks that you want to be doing, is that you want to basically get them done in the morning. So let's say have possibly an hour, let's say an hour and a half to follow this ultradian rhythm. An hour and a half where you have a full block when you're working, you're not having calls, and you just basically chopping trees. And another thing, a tool that I can also share is the understanding initially before you make any changes is to understand what you're currently doing. And so that also can help with what are the rituals that you have that are not helping you, or when can you be implementing certain rituals. So it's basically doing a time audit of your day. And based on that, you can decide, I want to keep it, I don't want to keep it, and understand how you're spending your time. And you can also capture when you feel tired and when you don't feel tired, and when you feel at your peak. So sharing this here as well, it's a Google Sheet. Any questions?
Very clear.
And so here the idea is to then focus on what your ideal week is and budget for your time. Likewise, as you'd budget, for your money, how you're going to spend it. Here the idea is, what am I spending my energy on? What am I spending my time on? Then the second step is to then align your actual schedule with your life maps. And that's where the life maps become very powerful. So you basically start with your life maps. Where do I want to be? A year, 5 years, 10 years at the end of my life? What's important to me in all 5 categories? Spiritual, family, social, physical, financial, and bringing this back to what does my day-to-day life look like? Am I synchronized or not? Because often what's going to create stress is the tension between where you are and where you want to be. And likewise, are you putting the effort into where you want to be going? Or are you just forcing and going in a different direction? And so then you can block time off to do things like uninterrupted work. Likewise, create themes for different days of the week. So I know it's not always easy in a work environment to do that, but something to discuss with your manager. Say, we'll have, say, no calls between 8 and 10 a.m. and do some focus work at that time. And also think about what does it look like if I was starting my day earlier, because that is also powerful. I think one tip that is super useful is not to put an alarm clock for when you want to get up, but put an alarm clock as to when you should be going to bed. And then, of course, looking at how you can embed rituals into every day. So, and as someone famously said, you get more of what you focus on. That's our friend Tony Robbins. And so we'll just finish off on this, that it's really important to understand your bigger picture, understand who you are deep inside, what your strengths are, likewise some of the weaknesses that you want to leave on your side, but focus on your strength, understand what you have at heart that really excites you and the purpose, and then afterwards just be sure that your energy levels are high to be able to deliver on all those goals.